In Okinawa, Japan, a professional baseball player named Kojima Hiramichi is known for his relentless dedication and tireless training. Kojima is the cleanup hitter for the Saikyu Saitama Lyans, and even in the off-season, he refuses to rest. This time he isn't alone, joining him are relief pitcher Nakani and team trainer Kinosaki. Together, the three have set up a small training camp in Okinawa. Ever since he first joined the Lycans 21 years ago, he has been able to earn Rookie of the Year, become the leader in RBIs 7 different times, and also win the Home Run King title 5 times along with some other awards. Even with all those big achievements, there is still one thing he has never been able to get, and that is the championship, because from the very start of his baseball career he has not managed to win it even once, which is why people around him call him an unlucky but very talented batter. However, this camp is for the purpose of finding these elements, and Kojima is here to meet that man. On the 10th day of camp, Nakani injured his middle finger, which was supposed to be Kojima's gift. But then Kinosaki tells Nakani that he needs to find a substitute pitcher since he can't pitch anymore. After that, both Kinosaki and Nakani start visiting every university team and even the baseball divisions at different companies, trying hard to look for a substitute pitcher, but no matter where they go they just can't find anyone who fits. Right at that moment, a woman who looks like a female version of John Jones shows up and asks if they are searching for a pitcher and takes them to another place, saying she can introduce them to a person who plays a game called 1 Ounce. Turns out, the game is very popular with the American soldiers living in the area. She explains that it's to see whether the pitcher can get batter out, but when a Japanese pitcher arrives, she tells them to make a bet, and they do bet 1,000 yen to start off. Slowly, the pitcher struck out batters and their bet increases, and Kinosaki tells Nakani that they have been tricked as they might have set this up to get their money. So, they give the money to Lady, but she tells them it's $4,000 instead of yen, which freaks them out. Instead of paying, Nakani goes against the Japanese pitcher to drop the bet money. However, the Japanese pitcher refuses, saying he would only bet $40,000, and tells Nakani that if he can touch the ball he pitches he wins. At that moment, Kinosaki figures out that the guy standing in front of them is not just some average player. He even notices that Nakani is looking nervous and scared of him, even though Nakani is a professional pitcher, but the truth is that a $40,000 bet is way too much for him to handle. After that, the match starts, and right away Nakani struggles against the man for the first 2 pitches. When the third ball comes, Nakani suddenly feels a rush of confidence and believes that this time he is definitely going to hit it, but once again he swings and misses, eventually losing. 7 days later, Kojima shows up at the same field and easily beat a bunch of pitchers with his powerful batting, but then Tokuchi, the same rich Japanese guy who had earlier made Nakani and Kinosaki so scared, arrives on the scene. Kojima tells Tokuchi that if he manages to win, then the remaining debt will be cleared, but Tokuchi replies that if he wins instead, the amount will rise to $400,000, and Kojima accepts the deal. However, he suddenly feels surprised and even a little shocked when he notices a huge crowd gathered around the field, loudly cheering for him as if they had been waiting for this match to happen. After that, their match starts, and Tokuchi throws the first pitch in a strange way that makes the ball fly past and hit high above the fence behind Kojima. Watching this, Kinosaki starts to wonder if the ball might have slipped out of Tokuchi's hand or something like that, and Kojima then asks Tokuchi if a strike really means the ball has to land inside the box, to which Tokuchi nods and says yes. Hearing that, Kojima replies that from the way he saw the pitch, he thought the strike zone was somewhere else because of how unusual it looked. While looking at the two of them, Kojima realizes that Tokuchi is not the same as before, since this time he actually seems nervous standing against Kojima. When the second pitch comes, Tokuchi once again misses the strike zone and the ball ends up hitting the fence, and this time Kojima laughs at him and jokes that he should just go back home and practice more. After wasting yet another pitch, Tokuchi finally tells Kojima that the next ones he throws are going to be the real pitches. When Tokuchi throws again, Kinosaki yells out that the ball is way too high and it should count as a ball, but instead of letting it pass, Kojima swings on purpose and hits it, even though if he had left it alone it would have been a ball for sure. One of the women watching explains that the reason Kojima did that is because everyone in the crowd had placed their bets on Tokuchi, and for a proud hitter like Kojima, this kind of thing is the biggest insult he could ever face. After that, the fifth pitch comes and Kojima swings and hits the ball again, but the woman watching explains to Kinosaki that Kojima has become too stubborn and is letting the strike count get worse and worse. It turns out that from the very start, Tokuchi's real plan was to drag things out until the count reached 3 balls and 2 strikes before making his move to win. As the next pitch is about to begin, the woman tells Kinosaki that this one is going to be Tokuchi's strongest and most dangerous pitch. On that throw, Tokuchi sends the ball toward Kojima, and it moves slowly right past him, making Kojima realize too late that it was actually a slow ball, and just like that, Tokuchi ends up winning the match once again. The woman thinks that the real reason Kojima lost the match is because of his own arrogance. Later that night, after being completely insulted by Tokuchi, Kojima suddenly disappears without saying anything, while Kinesaki ends up spending time with Big Mama at the bar. There, he asks her if it's actually true that nobody has ever been able to hit Tokuchi's pitches, and she tells him that it's true and explains that Tokuchi is able to control people's minds and play with them psychologically. After that, Kinesaki gets a phone call from Nakani, who tells him that Kojima has been spotted somewhere near the mountains. Kojima tells Kinesaki that he went to see Tokuchi again, asking for a rematch and putting his entire professional baseball career on the line, saying that if he loses, he will never play baseball again, and if Tokuchi loses, he will never gamble with baseball again. Kojima then spends all his time training alone in the woods up in the mountains, trying to truly discover the real meaning of his skills and who he is as a player. A few days later, everyone returns to the same baseball field, and Kinesaki feels completely determined that this time Kojima is going to win the match. After that, the match finally starts, and Kojima quickly gets 2 strikes against him, which makes it seem like he is doing it on purpose. Tokuchi notices what Kojima and the others are trying to do and point it out, saying that his right wrist is injured but he is still going to win this match no matter what. It is well known that a top-level batter can always tell whether a swing will result in a hit or not, and Kojima knows this just as well as anyone. He remembers a flashback when some of his teammates had resigned, and he comforted them, telling them that they would always be part of the Lyans team and that when they finally win, he would save them a VIP spot at the celebration. Back in the present, Tokuchi throws a pitch that hits Kojima right on the elbow, knocking him to the ground, but it turns out the ball counts as a dead ball. Everyone in the crowd starts wondering if Kojima purposely let himself get hit by the pitch. Kojima then turns to Tokuchi and asks if that means he won this time, but right then Big Mama shows up and tells them that he didn't, because the ball was actually in the strike zone, and in Japan, if a batter is hit by a pitch that is in the strike zone, it counts as a strike. Despite this, Tokuchi insists that it was a dead ball and immediately admits that he has lost the match. Tokuchi then puts his right hand in front of Kojima and tells him to break it with a bat, but Kojima quickly says that he never meant to break his right hand and that he only said to take his right hand so that he could continue being a professional player. The next day, the president of the Saitama Group, which owns the Saikyu Saitama Lyans, gets a phone call from Kojima about something important. It turns out that the professional baseball team, the Saikyu Saitama Lyans, had won their very first Japan Series championship 20 years ago, and ever since that victory, they have never been able to win it again. Meanwhile, Kojima and Tokuchi are flying to Kagoshima, and when they arrive at the stadium, Kinesaki hands Kojima his uniform. Kojima doesn't like it at all, calling it an old school and puts it back into the locker. Kinesaki then tells him that Kojima had already negotiated with the team owner to get special permission to join the squad, and he also says that Kojima should go and discuss his salary with the owner. However, Kinesaki warns him that the pay probably won't be very high, because the owner decides the team's salary based on how profitable the baseball business is. After that, Tokuchi goes to meet the team owner, but doesn't show much respect during the meeting, which makes the owner get straight to the point. The owner tells Tokuchi that he is not the kind of player they are looking for, so they cannot offer him a regular contract salary. Still, the owner wants to see what Tokuchi can actually do, and he starts laughing when he realizes that Tokuchi has no official records and only has wins from gambling baseball games. Tokuchi then explains that he doesn't need a fixed salary at all, but for every batter he gets out, he wants 5 million yen, and if he allows a run, he will pay the owner 50 million yen. After thinking it over, the owner surprisingly agrees to Tokuchi's unusual offer. That night, the Saitama Lyans play their preseason game against the Kobe Blue Mars, and the coach decides to send Tokuchi in to pitch during the next inning, telling him to warm up first. But Tokuchi refuses, saying he doesn't need to warm up and can pitch effectively anytime. After a while, someone informs the team owner that the result of the preseason game is in, and the Lyans lost 8-0. They also explain that Tokuchi started pitching in the 3rd inning and continued all the way until the 9th, shutting out every single one of the 21 batters he faced. The guy even hands the owner a check for the money that Tokuchi sent that he earned from striking everyone out. The next day, there is another match, and once again Tokuchi takes the mound to pitch, but everyone starts wondering if he even needs any practice. Tokuchi refuses to warm up or practice his pitches, and at first, people think that the Lyans are going to win easily because they underestimate him. Just then, the starting pitcher for the Fingers, who is a Rookie of the Year named Kawanaka, throws fastballs close to 150 km/h and manages to strike out every batter he faces. The game continues with neither team scoring a point, but eventually Tokuchi goes back to pitch and scores the first point for his team. At that moment, the Fingers realize that they are facing an unbelievably skilled opponent. By the end of the preseason games, Tokuchi's yearly salary has risen to an astonishing 270 million yen. The next day, a reporter interviews Tokuchi since he has been pitching perfectly in every preseason game, and she asks him if he really should be at practice right now instead of wasting time playing arcade games. The other members of the Lyans see Tokuchi on TV and get angry at him for not showing up to any of their practices, but when the reporter asks him why he thinks the Lyans have stayed a B-class team for the past few years, he calmly answers that it's because the team has no real sense of urgency. After that, the pennant race begins, and the Lyans end up losing 11 games in a row right from the start of the season, with owner Saikawa not allowing Tokuchi to pitch in a single one of those games. Even so, the owner doesn't feel upset at all, because he knows the team can still bring him profits even while losing, and he strongly believes that once Kojima finally comes back, the team will start winning again. The owner's assistant asks him why he still isn't letting Tokuchi pitch in any of the games, and the owner replies that they are just giving the other teams more time to study and analyze Tokuchi's pitching first. It turns out that the owner actually has several pawns working under him, including the managers, sales staff, and almost everyone connected to the team, and his control even reaches some of the players themselves, like Yoshida. However, the match goes on and the time finally comes for Tokuchi to take the mound, and the moment he steps out, the whole crowd starts cheering loudly. The batter at the plate thinks that Tokuchi will definitely throw a fastball just like his manager warned him about, but instead Tokuchi delivers a low ball, and when the batter makes contact, Yoshida purposely misses the catch. The game continues, and once again Yoshida lets another catch slip away on purpose, which puts Tokuchi into a serious crisis on the field. After that, Tokuchi walks straight up to Yoshida and confronts him, telling him to get out since he doesn't even qualify to defend, and Yoshida storms off into the foul area. With one of the Lyans pitchers having broken his fingernail earlier, there is no one left to pitch except Tokuchi. Taking control, Tokuchi begins taunting the Eagles, boldly claiming that just 8 of his teammates are more than enough to defend against a bunch of losers like them. As the match moves on, however, it becomes obvious that the Lyans strategy isn't going smoothly, and the Eagles players laugh mockingly at Tokuchi. In the following round, Tokuchi throws another pitch, the batter connects but Imai makes a clean catch, and the runner is called out. At the top of the 7th inning, the Lyans finally started their comeback, managing to close the gap down to just 7 points. In response, the Eagles brought in another pitcher, Mizuhashi, the same reliable arm who had saved their team countless times the previous season. The tension rose as the game pressed on with only 5 batters remaining for the Lyans. Then, following Tokuchi's advice and tips, one of the batters stepped up and successfully connected with Mizuhashi's pitch, pushing the momentum back toward the Lyans. Tokuchi explains to everyone that originally Mizuhashi used to keep his glove open the same way for both sliders and fastballs, but because of the catcher's words, he now subconsciously closes his glove whenever he throws a slider. Thanks to this, the Lyans score 6 runs in the inning and cut the gap to just 1 point, which makes the owner furious. In anger, the owner calls Yoshida and orders him to get back on defense and ruin the stable 8-player formation. Yoshida returns this inning and makes a fine play that saves the Lyans from their predicament. At the top of the 9th, the Eagles fail to hold their lead. When Yoshida comes up to bat, he notices the slow relay and rushes for home. He slides in safely before the ball can reach the plate. The owner, watching, wonders what Yoshida is doing, while everyone notices that Tokuchi's expression looks a little off. After the inning, Tokuchi turns to Yoshida and says it doesn't feel like him as the fine play earlier or the run just now. He asks if the owner is really going to be okay with this. Yoshida realizes that Tokuchi has figured out everything, and he explains that the owner gave him money so he would give up some runs on purpose, but he makes it clear that he is not doing this because of the money at all. He then admits that Tokuchi joined the team without any real experience, yet right after that he started winning every single game without trouble, and this made him feel upset and jealous. In the end, Yoshida says straight out that he is only jealous of Tokuchi's success, and he remembers how back in university he used to be the ace pitcher who had a bright future and a lot of confidence in himself. At first, Yoshida joins the Lyans as their star player, but by the end of his 3rd year he is forced to face a tough choice, where he has to either put up really strong numbers or else end up sitting on the bench. Not long after, a cleanup hitter from the rival team comes up to Yoshida and tells him that if he pays him 5 million yen, then he will make sure the whole batting lineup keeps missing. Yoshida feels like he has no other option, so he goes along with the offer and accepts it. Just like the hitter promised, the opponent's entire batting lineup plays in a strange way, and because of that, Yoshida ends up throwing the very first perfect game of his whole career. Soon after, Yoshida was contacted by the owner, who reveals that he knows that he is related to Fixed Results as he investigated earlier. The owner tells Yoshida that he has to follow his orders if he ever wants to play professional baseball in the future, and back in the present, Tokuchi asks him if that is really the reason why he chose to betray everyone. After that, the game goes on and Tokuchi calls for a timeout before heading back toward the dugout. When the next batter comes up, Tokuchi throws the ball with so much force that it strikes the batter right on the head, knocking him down to the ground. Right after this happens, players from both teams rush onto the field and a fight suddenly breaks out, and because of the chaos, Tokuchi ends up getting ejected from the game. After the whole thing happens, Yoshida is the one who walks over to the pitcher's mound and takes the spot that is left open, and once he does that, the game finally comes to an end with the Lyans winning the match. Because of what just happened, Saikawa now adds 4 more rules to the contract, and the first rule is that Tokuchi has to always listen to the manager, while the second rule is that all of the runs must only be scored when Tokuchi is the one pitching. The third rule says that the money he gets paid will change based on how big or important the game is, and the fourth rule is that this deal can only be known and kept a secret between just 4 people and no one else at all. After that, the next game for the Lyans begins, and Tokuchi suddenly walks the first 2 batters right away, which makes everyone believe that he is just going to strike out the next 3 batters in a row like he usually does. Their opponent this time is the Marines, and one of the players on their side keeps thinking about how Tokuchi is known for throwing nothing but fastballs. Soon after, Tokuchi winds up and throws the ball, and the batter actually manages to connect and hit it, which brings the count to 3-2. Right after that, the batter named Thomas keeps fouling off several more pitches in a row, stretching the at-bat all the way to 8 pitches before anything is decided. The yellow-haired Marine player explains to his teammates that Thomas purposely let Tokuchi throw 8 pitches so he could carefully study and analyze him as a first-time opponent. Right after that, the 9th pitch starts, and Tokuchi strikes Thomas out with just a single ball, which leaves everyone in shock and disbelief. Soon after, another batter named Brooklyn steps up to the plate, and although he manages to hit the very first pitch without much trouble, he still ends up getting out right away. Finally, the 5th batter, Takami, makes his way to the plate, and he is known as the strongest hitter on their team since he has the highest score out of all the players. When Tokuchi throws the ball, it ends up being called a strike because he suddenly sends one straight down the middle of the plate. Takami quickly realizes that Tokuchi had already noticed he wanted to observe the very first pitch, so Tokuchi decided on purpose to throw one right down the middle just to trick him. As the at-bat continues, Takami carefully studies and analyzes the way Tokuchi's pitches move, trying to figure out his pattern, and by the time the 3rd pitch comes, he understands that Tokuchi is now aiming to finish him off and get him out. In the end, Tokuchi strikes Takami out and sends him back to the bench. A little later, Takami talks to his teammates and explains that Tokuchi has the rare skill to actually control the number of spins on his fastballs, and at the same time, their coach points out that what they are facing is simply a low-spinning fastball. After that, the next round begins with Tokuchi still standing strong on the mound, and he quickly manages to get another batter out without much trouble. One after another, every single member of the Marines keeps getting out because of Tokuchi's powerful pitching, and before long it becomes the Marines' turn to step up and attack again at the top of the 8th inning. The next round starts with the announcer loudly saying that Tokuchi is now only 2 outs away from completing a no-hits, no-runs game, which makes the tension even higher for everyone watching. Takami then tells his teammates to stop worrying about the low fastballs and instead focus only on hitting the regular fastballs that Tokuchi throws. Even with that plan, Yamakawa steps up and surprisingly manages to hit one of Tokuchi's pitches, and after that, the Marines continue to put the ball in play again and again. Moving forward into the 9th inning, Tamaki comes up to bat and Takami himself shows no signs of pressure at all as he gets ready. When the 3rd pitch of the at-bat comes, Tokuchi quickly realizes that this one should be easy to hit, but Tamaki swings and completely misses the ball, ending up struck out as the umpire calls him out. The next round starts with the announcer loudly saying that Tokuchi is now only 2 outs away from completing a no-hits, no-runs game, which makes the tension even higher for everyone watching. Takami then tells his teammates to stop worrying about the low fastballs and instead focus only on hitting the regular fastballs that Tokuchi throws. Even with that plan, Yamakawa steps up and surprisingly manages to hit one of Tokuchi's pitches, and after that, the Marines continue to put the ball in play again and again. Moving forward into the 9th inning, Tamaki comes up to bat and Takami himself shows no signs of pressure at all as he gets ready. When the third pitch of the at-bat comes, Tokuchi quickly realizes that this one should be easy to hit, but Tamaki swings and completely misses the ball, ending up struck out as the umpire calls him out. Seeing the way the game is playing out, Kojima starts to wonder if the reason for putting so many left-handed batters in the lineup is actually to make sure the ball keeps getting hit toward first base on purpose. Time passes and both teams push forward, and they finally reach the 8th inning without either side giving up a single run, but then something bad happens when Tokuchi suddenly collapses and falls hard on the ground. Even so, Tokuchi refuses to give up, as he slowly stands back on his feet, returns to the pitcher's mound, and keeps throwing with determination, even though every pitch makes him more and more tired. After some time, the game continues with Tokuchi still fighting, but neither the Lyans nor the Marines are able to score any runs, and because of that the match is forced to go into extra innings. After that, the Lyans decide to switch up the batting order, and the first batter Kondu is replaced by Kojima, who comes out wearing the number 9 jersey. The moment the crowd sees him step onto the field, they cannot hold back their excitement and cheer loudly, even though Kojima has not played a single game this season because of the injury he suffered to his right elbow during the offseason. At the same time, the Mariners also make a change by bringing in a left-handed relief pitcher named Tomosaka to face him. When Kojima gets ready, Tokuchi begins to mock him and laughs, telling him that he should just retire already, but before throwing, Tokuchi also warns him that the first pitch is going to be an outside fastball, and he makes it clear that this one pitch will be Kojima's only chance to win the match. After that, Kojima steps onto the field ready to face the pitch, and Tomosaka throws the ball, but Kojima swings with full strength and connects perfectly with the outside fastball, sending it flying high as he scores with a home run. Up until this point in the season, Tokuchi's salary has already risen to 735 million yen, yet despite that huge amount, the owner decides to increase his contract rate by 20 times for the next game that will take place tomorrow. Back in the present match, Tokuchi once again walks back onto the field to pitch, and as soon as everyone sees the look in his eyes and the way he carries himself, they realize that this is not the same normal Tokuchi they had been watching before. Next, it becomes Takami's turn to bat, and this time he manages to hit the ball cleanly, sending it straight out of the park for a home run, which makes Tokuchi finally give up his very first run after going 47 full innings without allowing any. Not long after that, it is revealed that Tokuchi's yearly salary has actually dropped down to a negative 65 million yen, showing just how badly things have turned. As the game continues, the pressure on Tokuchi grows heavier and heavier, and in only the first 3 innings he ends up giving away a total of 14 runs. Later on, Tokuchi reveals that the Mariners have actually fallen into his trap, since in their rush to score run after run, they have become careless and overconfident. After that, Tokuchi throws the ball and it is called a ball 3 times in a row, and the batter still cannot hit it, so everyone starts to notice that Tokuchi is only wasting time. Then the batter steps out of the box to swing at the ball, but that breaks the rule, so when the ball drops in fair territory it does not count. After that, another batter comes up, and Tokuchi keeps throwing balk balls, which are the pitches that fall on the ground before reaching the plate. The next batter then switches places with the opposite box, and Tamaki quickly tells the umpire that if a batter changes sides after the pitcher has already started his move, then by the rules that batter should be ruled out. Seeing what is happening, Tokuchi decides to try a pitch without even stepping on the rubber, and it is called a ball right away because the pitch breaks the rules. Tokuchi keeps using this strange strategy again and again, and soon the Mariners have no idea how to respond or what they should do anymore. At last, it becomes the Mariners' turn to pitch, and Tokuchi tells his teammates that they must score 16 runs this inning. After that, Kira takes the mound as the pitcher, and up to now he has not allowed the Lyans to score a single run. But this time, Kira doesn't take any warm-ups or practice throws, he just rushes into the game, and it turns out that he cannot even pitch a proper strike. As Mariners still have 16 points while Lyans have 0, but still game is under Lyans' control. Meanwhile, Kojima notices that the pitcher is crumbling because there is a time restraint, and without throwing practice pitches, he didn't notice the ditch on the ground. In the end, Kira scores 2 outs in the inning, his opponent scored 6 runs. However, the rain gets heavier and now the batter is Fujita, and Tokuchi realizes that the pitcher is forced to pitch under these unfavorable conditions in the game, and he gave up 10 runs. Afterward, Kira throws a bulk and now the score is 16-11, and the runner on first also advanced to second. Seeing Kira keeps throwing more balks, the manager sends in another player to pitch, but Kira tells him right away to just give up because it is meaningless now. The new pitcher tries, but on his very first pitch he slips, and it ends up being called a balk too. As the game continues, Toshiro takes the mound, but he also cannot throw a single strike no matter how hard he tries. After that, another batter from the Lycans steps up to the plate, and he swings at a fastball that Tokuchi had already warned him about beforehand, and the hit goes flying out of the park for a home run. With that swing, both teams end up with the same number of runs, and the umpire decides to suspend the game. After that, the match keeps going, and Kira starts yelling at the staff because they are letting the game continue even though the weather is really bad, but the workers explain that they are only following orders from Saikyu, the owner who is also the sponsor of this game. At the same time, Saikyu's secretary makes a secret phone call to Tokuchi and quietly asks him what plan he has for this match, and Tokuchi answers with confidence that he is going to win the game and make every part of it count, and he also says that he will make sure Saikawa is forced to pay him for every single out that he earns during this game. The game starts again with the Lycans taking the offense, and Toshiro steps onto the mound to pitch, but right away he throws 4 balls in a row and gives the batter an easy walk. After that, Arai comes up to bat, and Toshiro, who has mostly been using curveballs, suddenly surprises him with a fastball that makes Arai swing and miss. Then, after throwing 1 blank ball, Tokuchi suddenly throws a pitch that hits Arai, and while pretending it was by accident, he quietly tells Arai what the next pitch is going to be. As soon as the next pitch begins, Arai gets ready and manages to connect with the curveball, sending it flying and allowing him to score. As the game moves on, it reaches the 5th inning, which will most likely be the Mariners' last chance to go on offense, but the heavy rain keeps getting worse and most of the points so far have been scored because the pitchers are at a big disadvantage in the wet weather. When the Mariners start preparing to bat, Tokuchi mocks them by saying that they are so weak they can't even hold on to a 16-run lead. He also adds that he plans to stretch out the game on purpose until the sponsor finally changes their decision and calls the match off, and then he walks away. After that, the game keeps going with Takami stepping up to bat, and Tokuchi throws a fastball that just barely slips into the inside corner of the strike zone. Then, Tokuchi keeps throwing several balls in a row, and Takami is not able to make even a single clean strike, and the one time he does swing, it only ends up as a foul ball. Takami soon figures out that Tokuchi is actually doing this on purpose just to show off and make it look like he can control the pitches however he wants. At the end, Tokuchi throws a low spinning ball that tricks Takami into swinging, and he completely misses it. After striking out and defeating almost every player on the Mariners' side, Tokuchi turns to their coach and says that his style of coaching today has been way too forceful, but when the coach later tries to give an apology to his own players, they are not satisfied at all and refuse to accept it. The coach then becomes frustrated and asks Tokuchi what he is supposed to do, and Tokuchi calmly tells him that the best choice is to just forfeit the game. After hearing this, the owner along with his geeky assistant start thinking that they have been completely tricked by Tokuchi, and they realize that if all of the personal records from the game are erased, then every single earned run Tokuchi collected will also disappear. On the other side, the coach finally makes the decision to forfeit the match, and this action causes the owner to explode with anger and become furious. After that, the Lycans face off against the Bugaboos, a team that most people don't take seriously at first, but Kojima quickly scolds everyone and reminds them that the Bugaboos have also been fighting hard from the bottom spot just like they did, and now things are different because this year they are being led by manager Shiruka. Shiruka is known for having a very clever and tactical way of managing games, and people often call him Shiruka the Strategist. He has a history of guiding several weak teams all the way to championships, and under his leadership this season, the Bugaboos have already climbed up the rankings and made their way to 3rd place in the standings. Later that night, the game starts with Kajiwara pitching for the Lycans while Katsuragi takes the mound for the Bugaboos. From the very beginning, the Lycans grow cautious and start paying close attention to every move that manager Shiruka makes, and by the time the 5th inning arrives, the Bugaboos are already holding the lead. After that, Kajiwara is taken out as pitcher and replaced by Tokuchi, and it is revealed that this was actually part of the owner's plan all along. At the same time, manager Shiruka had never expected that he would end up facing Tokuchi in 3 straight games, so he and his team decide to carefully watch and study every move Tokuchi makes. After that, Shiruka starts giving a few hand signs to his team members, and the players on the Lycans begin to wonder if those signals are actually meant to order a squeeze play. Because of this, Tokuchi tells his teammates that no matter what kind of strategy the opponents try to use, their only goal should be to strike out the batters and finish the inning as fast as possible. Right after saying this, Tokuchi begins pitching like a maniac and manages to get 2 batters out in a row without giving them any real chance. When the game reaches the top of the 6th inning, the Lycans go 3 up and 3 down on offense, and then the team makes a surprising move by pulling Tokuchi off the mound and placing him unexpectedly as an infielder instead. Then, manager Shiruka suddenly sends out a new player named Johnson, who is known for being an extremely fast runner, and everyone in the stadium begins to wonder who this mysterious guy really is and why the manager would decide to send him out so suddenly without warning. As soon as the pitcher throws the ball, Johnson takes off running at full speed like a maniac, and with his incredible speed he manages to steal home and score a run. It turns out that the Lycans lose the first game because of a stolen home plate by a foreign player named Johnson, and the whole Lycans team ends up feeling really discouraged. Seeing this, Kojima steps in and encourages them by saying that the only reason they failed was because they didn't have any data or information on Johnson beforehand. All of a sudden, Shiruka shows up on television and starts sharing details about Johnson, explaining that he was not originally a baseball player but had actually been a track and field athlete in the past. On the very next day, the second match between the Lycans and the Bugaboos begins, this time with Kinoshita taking the mound as the starting pitcher for the Lycans. Meanwhile, one of Shiruka's team members asks him where he first discovered Johnson, and Shiruka explains that about 3 years ago he had traveled to the United States to watch the men's 100-meter track and field championship. In that race, all the attention from the crowd and the media was on a runner who was called the fastest man in the world, but Shiruka's eyes were not on him at all. Instead, he paid attention to the runner who only finished 5th in the semi-final and did not even qualify for the final round. Shiruka says that this man was not the quickest in the full 100 meters, but he was actually the fastest sprinter in the first 30 meters, which made him, in Shiruka's eyes, the fastest base runner in the entire world. After the story is explained, Johnson makes his entrance onto the field, and from the Lycan side, Tokuchi also steps out onto the ground to face him. Right after that, Tokuchi tries a pickoff throw to third base, but Johnson instantly dashes toward home plate and makes it there safely, showing that he is fully determined to steal it no matter what. Tokuchi then throws another pitch, but once again he gets outsmarted as Johnson charges toward home plate and manages to slide in safely again. After this, Tokuchi sits down to watch some video footage of the match and realizes that manager Shiruka has actually been using tricks the whole time, and everything he had said the day before was nothing but a bluff. Tokuchi then explains the whole situation to his teammates and calls them naive for not realizing it much earlier. He tells them that he had even set up a trap to prove his point, and the pitch that gave Johnson the chance to steal before was actually thrown in a different way than how he normally pitches. Tokuchi also explains that the real reason Johnson keeps stealing home plate is not because he cannot throw fast pitches or because Itaguchi is a bad catcher, but rather because the defense at third base is weak and not doing its job properly. After that, it is announced that Johnson will now be playing in the left field, and Tokuchi thinks that this change might actually turn out to be useful for the Lycans. When the Lycans batters then start hitting balls toward the left outfield, they end up getting stopped right away by the Bugaboos defense, who had already adjusted and shifted their positions in the outfield to cover for Johnson. After that, in the second game against the Bugaboos, the crowd inside the stadium begins cheering loudly for Johnson because of his amazing defensive play on the field. Now it is Tokuchi's turn to bat, and he has already noticed a small weakness in Johnson, so he waits patiently for the perfect chance to use it. Tokuchi swings and gives a hard hit, but Johnson manages to catch the ball cleanly, and Tokuchi is ruled out. The next batter for the Lycans is Tomioka, and before he steps up, Tokuchi quietly whispers something into his ear. When the pitcher throws the ball, Tomioka makes contact and hits it slowly, and the funny part is that he sends it right toward Johnson as well, exactly the way Tokuchi had told him to do. It turns out that Johnson is not able to catch the ordinary fly ball, and Tokuchi explains to the others that the reason is because Johnson cannot break his line of sight. Tokuchi points out that Johnson always keeps his eyes fixed on his defending position, and once the ball is in the air, his line of sight never leaves the ball until the very end. That is exactly why Tokuchi told Tomioka to hit a fly ball toward the left foul area, since Johnson would not be able to adjust his sight quickly enough to make the catch. After that, the Bugaboos begin their attack at the bottom of the 7th inning with Johnson as the leadoff batter. When the pitcher throws the ball to him, Johnson tries to go for a bunt, but it doesn't work and the pitch is called a ball, so all of the Lycans fielders gather around the mound to talk. During the meeting, Tokuchi tells them to shift their defense to prepare for another bunt attempt. Even though Johnson is usually considered a weak batter, he manages to take advantage of his incredible speed, and in just a flash he sprints all the way to third base safely. Right after that, the manager decides to switch pitchers and puts Tokuchi on the mound, and although he throws a few pitches, Johnson's speed continues to be a huge problem, as he shows no signs of slowing down at all. After a while, the Lycans players begin arguing with each other on the field, shouting back and forth like they are not on the same page, and then they all prepare themselves as the first pitch comes in. But right after that, one of the Lycans suddenly pulls out a hidden ball that he had in his glove and starts showing it off proudly right in front of Johnson. At that moment, everyone realizes that the entire argument was nothing more than an act, and that Tokuchi had secretly passed the ball to his teammate earlier as part of a clever trick. After a while, they enters the last inning with the score 2-1, and the leadoff batter of this inning is none other than Temu version of Michael Jackson. However, the pitcher on the mound is Komori, and when he throws the ball, Johnson quickly lays down a bunt on the very first pitch and manages to make it to base safely as well. Now that the Lycans are in real danger, Johnson begins taunting Tokuchi, trying to get under his skin, but Tokuchi does not care at all about his words. Instead, Tokuchi looks straight at him and tells him to settle things in a one-on-one duel. The game continues, and the next pitch is thrown low toward the batter's ankle, but this time Johnson fails to hit the ball the way he wants, and he ends up getting out because he cannot pull off his home run properly. After that, the Lycans players realize that Johnson is no longer scary to face, since Tokuchi can keep pitching the ball toward the ankle, which makes it impossible for Johnson to try stealing home plate. But then, the Bugaboos suddenly change their batting order, and from the first spot all the way to the sixth spot, they put in only left-handed batters. Ideguchi notices something strange about this and wonders why Kitano, who was hitting really well in yesterday's game, has been dropped from the third spot down to the seventh position. Kojima then arrives and explains to the others that the reason for this switch is simple, because in order to support Johnson's plays, they have changed almost their entire lineup to left-handed batters. Then the Lycans enter their third game against the Bugaboos with 1 win and 1 loss on the record, and the first inning begins with the Lycans on the attack, but their first 3 batters are put out quickly without getting a chance to build momentum. When Johnson steps up to the plate, he lays down a bunt and dashes at full speed, reaching base safely with ease. After that, another Bugaboos batter comes up and also manages to get a hit, and this leads to Johnson stealing yet another base, making it the 8th time he has stolen in just these 3 games. Seeing the situation getting worse, the manager decides to switch pitchers and brings Tokuchi onto the mound. Tokuchi then makes fun of Kanuchi, the batter from the opponent team, and tells him that even if he tries a bunt or a foul, it won't be any use against him. After that, Kanuchi actually goes for a squeeze bunt, but the ball falls right down the middle, and Tokuchi quickly grabs it and throws him out. Seeing that their plan isn't working at all, Shiruka decides that they have to change their strategy for the attack, because he believes Johnson will keep running no matter what, but once he reaches third base, they need to stop relying on the plan that focuses only on him stealing home. Afterwards, some kind of accident caused a commotion at the Bugaboos dugout, and when the first batter of Bugaboos hits the ball, Tokuchi makes an error and couldn't catch it. After a while, the manager once again switches the pitcher and brings Tokuchi back to the mound, and everyone in the crowd starts thinking that as long as Tokuchi's pitches stay inside the strike zone, Johnson won't be able to steal home. After that, Tokuchi manages to escape from the dangerous situation, but even then both teams move forward into the 6th inning without scoring a single run. However, something feels strange because Tokuchi keeps making these small errors over and over, and Shiruka starts to believe that Tokuchi isn't really messing up but instead hiding some kind of secret plan against Johnson. After that, Johnson tells Tokuchi that it's smart to put a runner in front of him, but then he calls Tokuchi stupid because he believes Mayama, who is standing on third base, will eventually be put out. Tokuchi just laughs at him and says that Mayama won't be put out, and instead he will stay stuck on second base. Then, Tokuchi throws his pitch, but the ball ends up hitting the batter, and it's ruled as a dead ball. Team Shiruka quickly realizes that Tokuchi did this on purpose, and even though Shiruka thinks that Mayama can't be put out with a dead ball, he still believes their plan will work in the end. On the other hand, Tokuchi gathers all the players and tells Shiruka's team that he called them over to shift their defensive positions. He then gives a signal and explains to his teammates that, from now on, they will also defend in the infield. This is Tokuchi's ultimate defense strategy, which he calls the 9-player infield. Tokuchi believes that this is the only way to stop Johnson's speed and make his running completely useless. On the other hand, the owner wonders if Tokuchi realizes how many millions of yen he will lose if the ball gets hit to the outfield. Meanwhile, Tokuchi explains to Shiruka's team that back in Okinawa, he used to play a game called 1-outs. The rule was simple: it's a battle between a batter and a pitcher, and if the batter gets walked, hit by the pitch, or connects with the ball, he wins. Tokuchi then says that in the 500 games he played, not a single batter has ever managed to hit an outfield fly ball against his pitches. Afterward, the batter Mishima steps up, but his whole body is stiff and shaking from the pressure of facing Tokuchi. Tokuchi throws the ball, and somehow Mishima manages to hit it. The ball rolls toward center field, but the fielder quickly grabs it and throws it home. Mishima gets out. The game then enters into the 8th inning with no runs scored and Tokuchi throws another dead ball purposely, which makes the entire Shiruka team even more furious. The commentators notice that the Bugaboos batting lineup is struggling again. To stop Tokuchi from pitching toward the ankles of right-handed batters, manager Shiruka switched all batters after Johnson to left-handed. On the other side, Tokuchi's 1 billion yen penalty suddenly gets cancelled, and it's revealed that he tricked the owner. Finally, the game reaches the 9th inning, and Tokuchi once again steps onto the mound. He tells everyone that he will defend the bases with the same 9-player infield strategy, because if the other team scores even 1 run, the game will be over. Afterward, Tokuchi comes back to the mound and sets up the same 9-player infield defense. He tells the batter that with that kind of thinking, he will only end up hitting into a double play. Tokuchi explains that if a double play happens, then no outs and bases loaded turns into 2 outs with runners on second and third. The batter gets shaken up, misses 2 fastballs in a row, and when Tokuchi throws again, he strikes out for the 3rd time. Watching this, manager Shiruka realizes that Tokuchi is using his sharp words to mess with the batters' heads and make them overthink on purpose. The Lyans manager is just Saikawa owner's loyal dog. Even though he is a terrible manager, he keeps the job because he always follows Saikawa's orders. Now it's Bugaboos' turn to bat with 2 outs and a runner on first. This time, their batter manages to hit the ball, and the Lyans fielder runs after it. But the manager, who is holding a phone because the owner is calling, suddenly changes the pitcher to Tokuchi, only because Saikawa ordered it. The manager has no idea about the secret 1-outs contract between the owner and Tokuchi. Still, he starts noticing something strange. Whenever there's a runner on third base, the owner always orders him to put Tokuchi on the mound. Despite this, Tokuchi handles the situation brilliantly, striking out another batter before returning to his seat. The manager, completely frustrated, begins nagging Tokuchi and even asks if Tokuchi has any murderous intent toward him. But Tokuchi simply replies that he doesn't. He actually enjoys all the appreciation he gets. In the bottom of the 11th, the Bugaboos once again get a huge chance with 2 outs and the bases loaded, so Tokuchi returns to the mound. Meanwhile, the owner and his stray dog finally realize something. Every time Tokuchi is sent in, not only is a pitching change used up, but when he goes back to defend first base, it also counts as an infielder change. That means it's not just the 8 pitchers being used, it's actually all 25 players in the dugout. It turns out that in order to strengthen the defense, manager replaced 3 outfielders with infielders, and now Tokuchi can pitch till the end. Afterward, the owner calls the manager to push another evil scheme, but this time the manager hesitates as he actually wants to win this game. Tokuchi then returns to the mound, determined to pitch until the very end. With absolute control, he strikes out all 3 batters in order, not allowing a single runner on base. After that, Johnson comes up to bat and he starts trying to make Tokuchi mad by saying that if Tokuchi really wanted to lock in his big moment, he should have walked the 9th batter in the last inning and let him come up with 2 outs, but Tokuchi explains that he did that on purpose, which leaves Johnson very shocked and confused. Then all the fielders move up close until they are only a few meters away from the batter's box, and when Johnson lays down a bunt and runs as fast as he can to try and make it safe, the ball gets grabbed right away by a fielder and he ends up getting called out. After that, the Lyans take the lead without much trouble and the Bugaboos are not able to change the pace of the game, and when Johnson comes up to bat again, Tokuchi purposely throws a dead ball that hits him on the shoulder because he wants to send a message. From that point on, Tokuchi spends the rest of the match breaking down every single part of Johnson's game to prove that there is nothing scary about him at all, not his hitting skills and not even his running speed. In the end, the Lyans win the match by a score of 1-0, and with that they also take the whole series against the Bugaboos by 2-1. The next day, Team Lyans goes out to celebrate their victory and Tokuchi explains to everyone that Shiruka hinted at this weakness from very start when he said Johnson is the world's fastest base runner. After the game, Tokuchi looked up information on world's fastest runner, Joe Kerrigan, who said that a human body's lower muscle is not capable of maintaining the top form for entire 10 seconds of 100-meter run, so the reason he does is when he reaches that limit, he raises the body up slowly and in the end, the external oblique muscles and abs are used to maintain top speed. Seeing Tokuchi, Kojima realizes that everything he does is amazing and perfect. After everyone just dozes off to sleep because of too much drinking, Kojima tells Tokuchi that the threat of Johnson would decrease now, but Tokuchi says that there is another trick for that and asks Kojima if he was serious about winning. After that, the 2 home games in a row at Saitama against the Fingers end up being cancelled because of heavy rain, but Kojima decides to stay inside the stadium so he can watch the Bugaboos facing their next opponent, the Blue Mars, on the television screen. At the same time, the team owner is letting out his anger on the manager for going against his orders, but the manager argues that he has the right to lead the team the way he thinks is best, although he also agrees that if he fails then 50% of his yearly pay will be taken away as a penalty. Meanwhile, Tokuchi and Kojima are still focused on watching the game, but all of a sudden Johnson gets badly hurt while chasing after a ball that goes over for a home run. Meanwhile, the owner of the Lyans talks with a mysterious person about destroying Tokuchi. Later, the Lyans team holds a briefing about their next opponent's Blue Mars. It's also said that they hired manager Tendu, who is a treasure in baseball world, and they gathered numerous talented players and trained them in Japanese-style baseball to become baseball experts. Also, that team has two well-known champions named fielder Pedro Rodrigo and pitcher Scott Williams. Everyone watches a video that shows Scott Williams in action, and he is the ace reliever for the Blue Mars with his secret weapon being the knuckleball, a tricky pitch that changes speed and movement in the air. After the video ends, everyone else leaves the room but Tokuchi stays behind, and when Kojima finally comes in, Tokuchi tells him that this team is full of cheaters and that nothing about the way they play looks natural at all. Later that night, the Blue Mars players are having their practice match, and when the game starts between the Lyans and Blue Mars, Kojima quickly notices that they do not really hit a lot of home runs but they are very good at getting extra base hits instead. After some time passes, a batter named Rodrigo steps up and smashes a home run, and then one after another the Blue Mars players begin hitting home runs too, even though they also end up getting a few foul balls along the way. The Lyans are stunned and start to lose their spirit when the Blue Mars manage to tie the score during the 8th inning. Right after that, an announcement is made about a player change on the Blue Mars side, and pitcher Williams steps onto the mound, and as he begins throwing his warm-up pitches, every person on the field, including the Lyans players, cannot help staring at him because they are already nervous and scared. It turns out that his pitches move in a strange way, swaying all over the place, and they are so unusual that even the catcher struggles to handle them and cannot catch the ball properly. The manager suggests that they should just sit back and watch while trying to study the pitcher's moves, but Kojima quickly says there is no time for that and it will not work anyway because this guy is not like the usual major league pitchers who only rely on throwing knuckleballs. Instead, while acting like he is going to keep using knuckleballs, he mixes in sinkers to trick the batters and raise the strike count against them. After this, Kojima steps up to bat against Williams who is pitching, and even though he puts in all his effort and almost connects, the tricky knuckleball just barely slips past his bat at the last second. However, the manager of the Lyans encourages his players and tells them that the game is not over yet, and he believes that if they can somehow push the match into extra innings, then Williams will start having trouble with his stamina. Soon it becomes the Lyans' turn to pitch, but the batter from Blue Mars makes contact and hits the ball, giving Blue Mars a huge chance to finish the game right there. After that, Hasegawa from the Lyans takes the mound to pitch, but once again a Blue Mars player connects with the ball, putting the Lyans in an even worse position, and this time Blue Mars is able to finally end the game. Later on, the entire Lyans team feels devastated by how poorly they performed, and Tokuchi calmly asks the team leader if, up until this point, anyone has ever actually managed to hit Williams when he pitched. The head replies that Takami Itsuki from the Mariners was the one who managed to do it, since they had faced each other 11 times during the last season, but the twist is that Williams never threw a single knuckleball to Takami in those games. After this, the Lyans players begin talking badly about themselves and putting themselves down, but Tokuchi suddenly laughs and says that anyone can throw those tricky knuckleballs that look so deceiving. He then tells the whole team to follow him outside, and once they do, he demonstrates by showing them the exact same kind of knuckleball pitch that Williams had thrown earlier. Tokuchi explains to the team that they have been completely fooled, because a knuckleball is actually a pitch where the ball has a slight spin that creates drag in an uneven way, and this drag makes the ball slowly curve through the air, while the strange swaying movement disappears if the ball spins more than once. He then asks the others why Williams never bothered to throw any knuckleballs when facing Takami from the Mariners, and they reply that it is because Williams could not take the risk of letting Takami notice the truth that his pitches were actually spinning in the air. After hearing this, some of the players begin to examine the ball more closely and they see tiny marks on the surface that look like scratches or nail prints, and right away they realize that this small hidden trick is the real secret behind how the knuckleball works. Tokuchi also explains to everyone that Williams avoided cheating against Takami because if he had tried it there, he would have been caught immediately, but now he is using the trick against them freely without holding back. The next day, the second game starts with Namuna taking the mound as the starting pitcher for Blue Mars and Mitsui pitching first for the Lyans. Even though the Lyans were crushed badly in yesterday's match, The team still looks cheerful and full of energy because Tokuchi has been encouraging them with his words. During the first inning, the Lyans batters perform well as manager Mihara gives a sign for the next hitter to lay down a bunt, but when the pitcher makes his throw and the batter tries to bunt the ball, the pitcher reacts quickly and makes a strong play that gets the batter out right away. When the fourth batter Kojima comes up to bat, Mihara gives a rare sign for an attacking play, and Tomioka, who is already on base, suddenly takes off running even before the pitcher makes his throw, but the pitcher notices it right away and quickly changes his plan to throw towards second base instead. After that moment, the rest of the Lyans batters go down one after another until the inning ends. Then it becomes the Lyans' turn to pitch, and as soon as they send in a throw, a Blue Mars batter smashes the ball for a home run, and in that same inning the Blue Mars batting lineup keeps connecting with consecutive hits, scoring run after run while still leaving a runner safely standing on first base. On the other side, manager Mihara is losing his mind because it is still only the second inning and the team is already falling behind by 5 full runs, which makes him panic even more. But Tokuchi calmly tells him to let him take the mound after this inning because he cannot wait any longer for Williams to show up and start a stopper battle, especially since the opponents already have such a big lead. Tokuchi then turns to Itaguchi and says that he is the only player on the team who does not need any signs, and he also points out that their signals are being stolen by the other side. Tokuchi also explains that it was very suspicious when Williams came in as a reliever during yesterday's game, because usually a relief pitcher is not sent out in situations where the match could possibly go into extra innings. After that, Itaguchi and Tokuchi make a plan to keep searching for how the opponents are stealing their signs, but they agree not to let the other team realize it, since if the Blue Mars players notice what they are doing and stop stealing signs, then the plan will no longer work. Afterward, Tokuchi keeps pitching strongly and shuts down the Blue Mars offense, holding them scoreless. Later on, Kojima steps up to bat, and the manager begins giving him some signs, which makes Itaguchi wonder what is really going on. It is then revealed that Tokuchi himself is the one telling the manager which signs and moves to use so they can decide what to do next. Now the count stands at 3-1, and both Kojima and Itaguchi carefully watch every single move the pitcher makes as he prepares to throw. However, Kojima connects with the pitch and manages to hit the ball, and it turns into a home run. After this, Itaguchi asks Tokuchi if they are really trying to find the sign stealers, but Tokuchi explains that the only way to lure out the signals that have been hidden is by cutting down their lead. He adds that the bunting pose Kojima showed earlier was nothing more than a trap, set up to trick the enemy into giving away that last home run. Tokuchi also says that once the count reached 4-1, the manager gave the sign for a squeeze bunt, and that piece of information was stolen and passed to the other side, which made everyone believe Kojima was about to bunt. In the end, Tokuchi concludes that all they need to do is turn the enemy's own plan of stealing signs against them, and by doing that, they will be able to score more home runs. After that, Kojima also joins the discussion with Tokuchi and Itaguchi, saying that the other team might actually have some kind of mechanism for cheating and that the entire stadium could be filled with possible traps. Kojima suspects that they might have hidden cameras set up everywhere, and even the team mascot could be giving secret signals to the batter about what kind of pitch is coming, or maybe even the characters on the scoreboard are being used to send out coded messages. However, Itaguchi argues that only the batters should really be able to receive signals from the outfield, but Kojima replies that there is actually one more person who can receive those same signals under the very same conditions, and that person is the catcher, since the catcher can clearly see and pick up signals from all the different positions around the outskirts. After that, Itaguchi explains that there are mainly 2 ways to send signals to players who are spread out on the field. The first way is by touching different parts of the body, which is known as using a flash sign, and the second way is by mixing in dummy signs while hiding the real one somewhere in between. After this, the match continues and one of the Lyans players comes up to bat, but he suddenly receives a safety bunt sign, which feels extremely strange and out of place. Tokuchi quickly notices that their signal has once again been stolen by the other team, and when the second round of batting begins, the manager ends up giving the same exact safety bunt sign all over again. After that, the batter lays down a bunt and the ball drops right in front of the third baseman, allowing the fielder to grab it easily, and the batter ends up getting out. Tokuchi then speaks to everyone and says that he has finally figured out the trick behind the opponent's shady signals. He explains that usually when a signal is given, the fielders will glance toward the source of it, but in this case, they all seem to be looking at the exact same spot instead. Tokuchi reveals that the secret is in the sound, because the signal is actually being sent in the form of sound inside the noisy stadium. He also believes that the opponents are using a method that makes sure every single player on their team is able to receive the signal at the same time without any confusion. After that, the game keeps going, and when the manager gives a signal to the batter, both Itaguchi and Kojima notice a drummer in the crowd who is playing very loudly, and it turns out that this drummer is actually the one sending the secret signals by changing the rhythm of his beats. Afterward, Tokuchi takes the mound to pitch and completely shuts down the opposing batters one after another, leaving them with no chance to score. Later, Tokuchi and the others go to the manager to ask him to give the bunt signal, but the manager refuses to do it. Since the manager is not willing to listen to Tokuchi's idea, Tokuchi starts thinking and finds a way to convince manager Mihara to follow his plan. In the end, Tokuchi bribes Mihara with some cash and now Mihara is Tokuchi's obedient dog. Finally, it is the Lycans' turn to attack, as Blue Mars is still leading the game with a score of 5-3 in the top of the 8th inning, and now the batter standing at the plate is Itaguchi. He receives a signal from manager Mihara, telling him to go for a safety bunt. However, Kojima is doubtful and wonders if those guys on the other team will act freely again and shift their defense for the bunt, since in the last inning they already used those strange and abnormal bunts, but still nothing suspicious was noticed by them. Tokuchi, on the other hand, says it is completely the opposite, because they were always using bunts repeatedly and that is exactly why they have shifted their defense this time as well. Afterward, Itaguchi moves into the bunt position as the pitcher winds up and throws the ball, but the pitch ends up being called a strike, even though Itaguchi clearly attempted to bunt at it, and this strange situation is exactly the same thing that happened earlier with Arai and also with Fujita. Itaguchi starts thinking to himself that the other team is completely convinced he will go for another bunt. So, when he moves into the bunt stance again and the pitcher throws the ball, he suddenly pulls his bat back and instead tries to swing. While doing this, Itaguchi begins to wonder how they are supposed to turn the enemy's shady plan against them. The problem is that, right now, only 3 people Kojima, Tokuchi, and himself know the truth about these strange signals, and none of the other teammates have any idea about it. He worries about how they could possibly explain everything to the rest of the team in the middle of such a tense game. Thinking about this, Itaguchi quickly runs over to Tokuchi so he can talk to him directly. But Tokuchi calmly tells him not to overthink the situation and instead just follow the manager's signs exactly as they are given. When Itaguchi returns to the mound, the manager gives him the signal once again for a sacrifice bunt. Right after that, the sound of the drum begins to echo through the stadium, which means the Blue Mars players also know what's coming. As expected, their infielders shift forward, ready to stop the bunt. The pitcher winds up, and Itaguchi takes off running while the batter also moves into the bunt stance, making the scene look exactly as the enemy expects. At that moment, Tokuchi leans over to manager Mihara and whispers something in his ear. Mihara's expression changes, and right after, he gives out a brand new signal. This time, it isn't for a bunt as it's the daring order to steal home plate on the very first pitch. Itaguchi is shocked when he sees that the other team already knows the steal home plate sign, and he feels like there is no way it can work now. Even though he thinks it is impossible, he comes up with a plan to fake the steal first and then go for it. When the play starts, Itaguchi takes off running as fast as he can toward home plate and just manages to slide in safe. After that, he notices the second baseman also trying to run for home plate, but he is too slow and misses the chance to score. Because of this, the Lycans finally take the lead, and by the time the inning ends, they have scored 4 runs in total. In the last inning, Blue Mars sends their big hitter Rodrigo to bat, but Tokuchi uses his usual trick plan against him and throws a pitch that strikes Rodrigo out. At the same time, the owner is thinking of a plan on how he can make all of Tokuchi's money disappear. The next day comes, and it is the 3rd game of the series, and Itaguchi feels that since they were able to win yesterday, they must win again today and prove to those cheaters what kind of team they really are. Tokuchi then speaks up and says that they should try changing the signs, which makes Kojima worry because he thinks it will be a big problem if the whole team finds out that their signs are being stolen. But Tokuchi doesn't look bothered at all and instead suggests a new plan, telling them that they can use the jersey number of the batter as the way to set up the sign pattern. Tokuchi also explains that when they are on the attack, the players should use the jersey number of their batter to decide the sign, and when they are on defense, they should also rely on the jersey number of their batter to set the pattern. After that, the 3rd game finally begins with the Lycans batting first, but when it becomes their turn to pitch, the rookie Ishiyama is sent out to start on the mound. Before the 3rd inning takes place, Tokuchi on purpose does not use the new sign system that he himself suggested, keeping it hidden for later. The match keeps going with Blue Mars batting, and they actually start playing very well, and by the time the bottom of the 4th inning comes around, Blue Mars has a big chance to take the lead. When Rodrigo steps up to bat, the Lycans pitcher throws him a strike at first, but on the second pitch Rodrigo manages to connect and hit the ball, smirking afterward in a way that makes Itaguchi feel uneasy and uncomfortable, as if something about that hit is not right. Itaguchi starts wondering how Rodrigo is able to guess the pitches so easily, because he knows there is no way Rodrigo can figure out their new signal system, which means there must be some other method he is using. After that thought, the pitcher throws another ball, and once again Rodrigo somehow predicts it correctly and lets it pass without swinging. When a timeout is called, Itaguchi quickly runs over to Kojima and Tokuchi and tells them straight away that their signs have definitely been stolen. After that, the team resets everything back to pattern 1, and the game starts moving forward again. But things do not go the way they had hoped, and Blue Mars ends up taking a 2-run lead when Rodrigo manages to land a strong hit. Tokuchi keeps watching the flow of the game for a while, and as Blue Mars continues to pile up hit after hit, reaching 7 in a row, he suddenly realizes that the team has been wiretapped, and that is how the opponents keep knowing their moves. Tokuchi explains that if the opponents are caught using wiretaps inside their own home stadium, it will turn into a very serious problem, so they would only risk using 1 or 2 wiretaps, and those devices would be hidden extremely well. He also points out another important detail, saying that no matter what the situation is, the final message always comes from the manager, which means they really only need a single wiretap to pick up the sound around him. But Tokuchi also makes it clear that placing a wiretap inside the manager's clothes is not possible, so the only way is that they must have hidden it somewhere near the spot where the manager usually stands all the time, just like any other manager would during a game. Kojima tries to search for the wiretap, but Tokuchi tells him that he will not be able to find it, so the smartest choice is to simply move the manager away from that usual spot. Later on, Mihara gathers the coach and the players in a different location to talk, but even then Tokuchi notices that the manager still seems to be bugged no matter where he goes, which makes him realize something important. Tokuchi then walks over to the basket of practice balls and suddenly scatters them all across the ground, using that moment to set up his next move. After doing this, he informs the team about the new change in the sign pattern, and right after that, the Lycans begin to play like complete maniacs, striking out and shutting down every single Blue Mars batter that dares to step up against them. Kojima starts to realize that maybe someone close to the manager is actually carrying the wiretap around with them, but Tokuchi quickly explains that the real reason is much simpler, since the place where the manager always stands is only a few meters away from where the ball boys usually stay. That is why Tokuchi purposely scattered all the practice balls earlier, because he wanted to force the ball boys to move away from that spot. At the same time, the manager of Blue Mars is busy giving out instructions to his players after listening to everything that has been picked up through the hidden wiretaps. After this discovery, Tokuchi finally steps onto the mound to pitch against Rodrigo, and with complete confidence he tells him that he is going to finish him off using only 3 pitches. After that, the Lycans manage to cut the lead down from 7 runs to just 3, and the manager of Blue Mars quickly tells his team to prepare for a sacrifice bunt after hearing the signs through the wiretap, but instead the Lycans batter surprises everyone by swinging for a hit and run shot. The Blue Mars manager cannot allow his secret cheating system to go to waste, because just like always, he has been using it ever since his owner secretly placed hidden devices all around New Mars Stadium while it was still being built, making sure the team would always have an advantage. Returning to the present, one careless player from the Lycans suddenly complains to the manager that it is too hard to see the sliding signs because his hand keeps covering Tokuchi's, and when Kojima and the others hear this, they immediately realize that he is about to ruin their entire plan. After that, the Lycans score 2 runs in a row, but their momentum slows down right after, and their batters get shut down and only manage to bring in 1 more run in the next inning. In the bottom half of that inning, Tokuchi steps back onto the mound to pitch, and even though the pressure is high, he does not allow a single run to be scored, which sends both teams into the final inning with the score standing at 7-5. When it is Blue Mars's turn, William returns to the mound to throw, and as always he relies on his knuckleball, and this time it lands as a strike since the batter does not even make a move to swing. Then Kojima comes up to the plate, and with a powerful swing he smashes the ball so hard that it flies straight out of the stadium for a home run. After Kojima, it becomes Tokuchi's turn to bat, and most of the people watching believe that he is just going to mess around without taking it seriously. Tokuchi takes 2 strikes in a row, but when a sinker ball is thrown, he manages to stay alive by hitting several fouls. Kojima watches carefully and starts thinking that Tokuchi is fouling on purpose, because he is clearly waiting for the chance to face a knuckleball. Right then, the pitcher finally throws a knuckleball, and Tokuchi swings hard, sending the ball flying as he runs straight for a home run and makes it safely. Right after that, Tokuchi keeps the pressure going by running again to steal second base, and he manages to reach it easily without getting caught. After that, Tokuchi starts laughing and taunts William, joking that his knuckleball is like a powerful machine gun, but the person throwing it is completely clumsy. Then, everyone returns to their positions on the field, and the members of Blue Mars begin to quietly feel uneasy, slowly starting to suspect that their wiretaps might have been discovered or exposed by Tokuchi. Despite this, William cannot stop keeping his eyes on Tokuchi, completely distracted, and his teammates notice it, telling him that he should forget about Tokuchi for now and just concentrate on focusing on his pitching. William throws a knuckleball, and it lands as a ball, but when a Blue Mars player tries to pick it up and throw it, Tokuchi is already running fast and reaches third base safely. After that, William switches back to a normal ball, but Tokuchi quickly comes up with another plan, and as it happens, the batter executes a squeeze bunt and hits the ball. At first, it seems like Tokuchi cannot make it safely and he appears to be out, but he tells the umpire to watch closely, and it turns out that the ball is still outside the plate, which means Tokuchi is actually safe. Tokuchi then explains to the rest of the team that whenever William pitches, the catcher switches between the normal ball and a fake one, which shows that the catcher must be secretly hiding another ball somewhere on his body. After that, every single member of the Lycans starts hitting William's pitches easily, as if he is just a rookie who doesn't know what he is doing. Meanwhile, the owner's debt rises quickly to almost 4 billion, and one of his assistants notices it, so he secretly calls Tokuchi to warn him to be careful because there might be a trap waiting for him. However, the owner catches the assistant using his phone and demands to know who he was calling. The older man explains everything to the owner, telling him the full story. Back on the field, it is now the bottom of the 9th inning, with the score at 10-7, and the first pitch comes flying straight toward Tokuchi's chest, which immediately shows that the pitcher is throwing it on purpose to intimidate him. The pitcher throws the same wild ball again, and when the third pitch comes, Tokuchi swings his bat and sends it flying straight toward Minamishiba's head, who is standing on the mound as the pitcher. Right after that, Tokuchi throws his bat at the pitcher once more, which scares him and makes him hesitate for a moment. Then it becomes Blue Mars's turn to bat, and as soon as the batter hits the ball, Tokuchi quickly grabs it and runs, but another player who gets in his way hits Tokuchi and they both falls on the ground. However, Tokuchi seems completely fine, but another player named Hayashi appears to be in pain, and everyone watching immediately realizes that what happened was intentional. Tokuchi then tells his manager to put him back on the mound, saying that those players are only trying to injure him. Meanwhile, Hayashi is carried away, but he casually walks and explains to his teammates that the moment he tried to kick Tokuchi, his body had already moved out of the way on its own. At the same time, the owner talks to the older assistant, revealing that this whole plan was actually designed to lure Tokuchi back to the pitcher's mound, and he also exposes that Coach Shiruka is the mastermind behind the attempt to take Tokuchi down, explaining that before these games even started, they had secretly discussed a business deal together. After that, the game keeps going, and Tokuchi steps up to bat for Blue Mars. He throws his first pitch, and it lands as a strike, but the batter immediately tries to play dirty again, complaining that the pitch wobbled strangely and asking to inspect the ball. As soon as the ugly-faced player grabs the ball, he starts yelling that there are scratch marks on it, as if it had been rubbed with sandpaper. The owner quickly points out that it is all a setup, designed to make Tokuchi look like he is cheating first, and he also reveals that the Blue Mars coach secretly slipped a piece of sandpaper into Tokuchi's pocket. Meanwhile, the entire crowd erupts, shouting and demanding that Tokuchi be investigated for cheating, completely unaware of the real trick behind the scene. However, Tokuchi calmly says that he will allow them to investigate the ball, but only under one condition: they have to check everyone who has touched it, starting with the umpire and Itaguchi, then the ugly-faced player, and finally himself. The owner, however, becomes even more excited, because he is certain that the ugly-faced player does not have any sandpaper on him, and he even shows footage to prove it. Afterward, the checking begins, and to everyone's surprise, they find a piece of sandpaper inside the player's pocket. The owner's assistant then shows footage revealing that Tokuchi had already known about the trick and had secretly given the sandpaper to Itaguchi earlier, who then slipped it into the ugly-faced player's pocket to set up the trap. Meanwhile, Tokuchi confronts the ugly-faced player and threatens him, and the guy quickly starts apologizing for trying to cheat. As this happens, the entire crowd in the stadium begins booing loudly at Blue Mars, showing their anger at the team's cheating. After that, the game resumes, and the Lycans manage to win the match decisively, while Tokuchi's yearly salary jumps to an impressive 4.37 billion yen, reflecting the success and impact of his incredible performance. With that, the intense battle between Tokuchi and the Blue Mars comes to an end, proving once again that strategy and mind games are just as crucial as raw skill in baseball. If you enjoyed this and want to watch more videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel.